This channel is made possible through the support of generous listeners just like you. If you would like to be a part of helping us bring our message of hope, peace, love, and spiritual truth to the world, please consider heading to experienceofthesoul.com/support, where you can join us as an ongoing patron or simply make a one-time gift. Blessings on the journey, dear friend.
Natural Awakenings Magazine, Zen Living Realty, and Supportek Staffing present The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 119, Spiritual Journey. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I am the host, and I'm in one of my favorite places today, 818 Studios, with my producer.
Hello, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 119 of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. I'm all aflutter. Is this one of your favorite places?
This is one of my favorite places.
No, and you've been to a lot of places, and you
Yes.
know, you go to ranches and stuff, so that
Right.
says something.
You're right, and I've got a big ranch thing coming up. But you know, there's something about the studio space, Dave. You've created sacred space in here, and you know, I love to say, you know, that spirituality is not necessarily about a building; it's about an experience. And yet, when we create sacred spaces where we live and work, boy, it's really felt, you know. So that I always feel that in here.
Thank you. It's really kind of hard because, you know, we have to have baffles and sound things and a microphone in your face and all of that. But I do try. I've got a candle happening and the lights are kind of chill and down. It's one of the things, an unexpected good thing from, you know, not shooting the videos for each of these episodes now is we can really keep a very kind of chill, sacred space in here. So
well, yeah, and I even have one of those touch lights that I really like. For some reason, I feel very powerful with one of those touch lights. But you know what I've noticed, Dave, since we're not doing as much, concern about lighting and more about sound, is that I can go a lot more inward, and the shows are getting deeper and they're getting more heart-centered, and this is always our goal.
Yeah, I think there's an intimacy, you know, when you can kind of lean into a microphone. And it's not about microphone technique, but if you have something really delicate and intimate to say, to be able to kind of lean into a microphone and still yourself, that's tough to do when you have, you know, watts and watts of lights beaming in your face.
Right. Lights, action, camera,
right,
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, this is a pretty big week. I mean, our episode is titled Spiritual Journey, and I think this is a really exciting week for you because you're starting a whole new aspect of your own spiritual journey. The show, or not the show, but the channel's changing just a little bit. Our Wednesday show is changing. Do you want to talk about that before we get into things?
Yes, and the first thing I want to do is just thank our listeners, because I just learned right before coming on the air that we are over 100,000 downloads. And you know, I kind of quit worrying about the numbers. I'm like, I'm going to focus on content and do what's mine to do and let God take care of the numbers. And evidently, God really heard that, is all I have to say. Over 100,000 is really amazing, friends.
Yeah, 102,000 and some change.
And also be aware that by the time this airs, it will be far more. It'll be probably thousands more than that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because this airs, you know, it's airing on October 5th. And so, you know, we record several weeks earlier. So this is incredible news, and it is a big month for me. So much of my work is now being carried on a new platform. We'll talk more about that when it's official. It's in the review process right now. Probably, again, by the time this airs, it'll be out. But also this month is my event at the Ranch Revival, which is just going to be a time of fun, of connection, of spirituality, and definitely some really good food.
I think I'm most excited about that.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm glad that you're going to be able to just come and experience.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. You know, you invited Shannon and me, and we're so used to kind of being worker bees,
right?
That I'm really looking forward to just coming in and not having to worry about, you know, the music or the timing or anything, you know, and any technical aspects. to be able to just show up and receive, I think is a gift. Thank you.
Yes, and I think afterwards the line dancing is going to be a blast. I mean, I love to dance, and it's rare that you get to do all those around, a sacred happening. But, to me, life is sacred. And when we dance, when we're, in joy, then God is present. One of my mentors, Reverend Sharon Poindexter, used to say it this way. She would say, joy is a sure sign of the presence of God. Mm. And so there's going to be a lot of that. And everyone I talk to right now is in such need of connection. And so I think it'll be safer because we're going to be outside. And so the social distancing will be easier. And it's a beautiful place. BLB Hacienda, where we're holding it, is just gorgeous. The owners are amazing, and they love each other, and they love God. And so I think it's going to be great. And even the benches we sit on are handmade. And I've had a vision of that for a long time. I just didn't know it was going to be there. Mm. I mean, I literally have written on a page, worship where we're sitting on handmade benches, because I believe that all things hold energy, and there's something really magical about being out under these gorgeous oak trees, sitting on a handmade bench under the stars with these, cool little market lights above us. It already feels sacred before anybody does or says or sings or anything. So I'm really excited about that, and it's just a couple of weeks away now.
Yeah, it's October 16th, 2020, from 7 to 9 p.m. We'll have links to this in our show notes, so be sure to check out the episode 119 for that link.
And I always want to say, too, to check out my website, which is my name, CynthiaAliceAnderson.com, because there's a lot of online courses available, and we're going to be putting out courses in the next 30 to 60 days that you can just buy the course and watch on your own. So we're going to get better at packaging that stuff. And it's just my mission in life to create spiritual resources so people can grow, prosper, and evolve. I mean, this is my vision, this is my mission, and I am all about it.
Yep. Now also Wednesday, can we talk about the new show that's coming onto the channel?
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, the new show. Yes, the Prosperity Capsule is, and the tagline to that, which is kind of really a part of the title, Prosperity Capsule, your weekly dose of inspiration. And that show will be even complete with commercials. We have someone coming in to do a commercial about the impacts of the Prosperity Capsule on your health and wellness. So we're excited about that. And so what used to be on Wednesday is the CCU message. And I have put the message out on the channel for, the last couple of years as a gift to CCU. But since I have moved on from being senior minister there, it's going to be available on another platform.
Yeah, that's right. If you listen to the channel if you're expecting the CCU Orlando weekly message, that will now be hosted at ccuorlando.net, and we will have a podcast feed for there. So it will be a separate feed. That's the only thing going in that channel feed, but we'll have a link to that in our show notes. It's not going away. We still believe in, putting the message out in podcast form, but it won't be, it won't be here. It won't be sponsored by, the Experience of the Soul channel or anything like that.
Well, and there's, some really smart reasons to do that. One is I'm no longer the senior minister, and so as people went on, they'd wonder why it was still on. Right. Number two, I really want whoever comes in that's new to be really establishing their own thing in their own way. And really, as a ministry, it's going to be more appropriate for the ministry to have its own channel anyway. That was just in the early days of us trying to, get something going and really support the church's growth and evolution too. So we wish everyone at CCU well. And again, as I've said in past shows, we'll continue to support and uplift, and just know the highest and best is coming. And, I can't wait for the day I'm asked to come back and speak.
As a guest speaker.
As a guest speaker, that's going to be a lot of fun. So.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, we weren't even able to, CCU wasn't even able to put out the podcast when we started ours, but we've got the new website over there. And so it's a lot more streamlined. And so, it, like you said, it just creates new space for the new minister to come along, and there's no strings attached or whatever. And I think that's right. I think that's the way it should be.
Exactly. Well, this is a time of clarity for me and for CCU, and I wish everybody the best there. And as I've said, and also in past shows, they'll always be my heart at CCU,
Hmm.
no doubt, no doubt, because I had a great time there. I had a great journey there, and it was a tremendous time of growth. And I feel a little like now I'm off at college, So it doesn't mean high school's bad. It just means I'm off in college, and I'm always going to remember that fondly. And I think over the years, I will be connected. So that's something I look forward
Hmm.
to. Because so many of the CCU members also still listen to the podcast, so it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. There's no weirdness. It's just, yeah.
Yep. We tried to be as non-weird as possible. And because here's the thing, and that leads us right into our show today. We love in my ministry and at CCU to discuss, to explore, and be in what we call the spiritual journey. And today's show 119, as Dave said, is the spiritual journey. And I love the study of words, and so even though I planned the title weeks ago and did some work then, I kind of refreshed some of what I was thinking about, and I looked up the word journey, and so. The word journey as a noun is the act of traveling from one place to another, and the verb is to traveling somewhere. And then I thought, okay, what are other ways we could even say this about the journey? Well, we could say we're on a pilgrimage, we're on an excursion, we're on a venture, and a voyage, a move, a crossing. But the idea is that the word journey implies movement, right? The word journey implies movement. So when we put spiritual in front of that, spiritual journey, it means that in our spiritual nature, there is going to be movement. In our spiritual awareness, there is going to be movement. There is going to be new awarenesses. There's going to be new ideas that we want to explore. There's going to be an expansion, really, of how we view the divine, and especially and including ourselves, how we view ourselves, in relation to the divine. And like when I think about this, my own spiritual journey, and I think about how so many years ago, I think my very first call to the journey was when I was about 8 years old. And I remember I was sitting on the second pew, and I was sitting right there by my mom, and I used to kind of rummage, through her purse during service or play with the jewelry on her hand. And I remember this one day, I was really just awestruck at the person speaking. And I remember watching this woman, and she was very big, and she was African American, and she had such a powerful message. And I remember thinking, I was 8 years old, and I thought to myself, I'm going to do that. I am going to do that. And that was a beginning, really, of me exploring the sacred, because I believed I had some kind of call to bring truth, to bring God, to bring passion, to life and to the journey. And as many of you have heard, my life has taken a lot of turns. I experienced abuse. I experienced, like so many of us, things that I would prefer to forget. But in fact, all of those things are what made me who I am, and I have been supported on the journey, all the way through. But what I thought about God when I was 8 years old is different than what I think about God now. When I was 8 years old, I thought about myself differently than I think about myself now, because my journey has grown. My journey has moved. My journey has expanded. And so I know as I'm saying this that you're probably already connecting with your own journey, right? That even if I said, where were you 10 years ago on your journey and where are you today? Is it different? And I'm sure if I asked you that, if I said, raise your hand if it's different, right now your hand would be going up and you would be saying, oh, yes, I have a different awareness. I have a different understanding, right? And so we really seek in our work to honor that journey. We really seek to honor that spiritual journey and to really continually be on it, because each spiritual experience we have kind of propels us forward into new understanding. And then we work with that, we grow in that, and pretty soon, and then there's another, awakening. So the idea in the way I teach spirituality and the way I teach this spiritual journey is not that you awaken one time and it's over. It's that it is a journey that we're on, not only through this lifetime, but especially this lifetime, and even beyond. Even as our soul passes over into the next life, our soul is still growing and evolving. So the journey, as we speak about it, implies movement, but it does very much also imply adventure, most definitely. And it can feel like a kind of pilgrimage. And we think the pilgrimage is like to something outer, but the truth is, it's about this awakening that happens within us. So I've really moved from a God up on a throne in the sky to God everywhere. God in me, God as this microphone, God as the words I'm saying, God as the blood in my body, God as the bones in my body, God as the hair on my head, God as the clouds in the sky, God everywhere. God is, right? So I can never be outside of God. And my initial idea was that God was somewhere way out there, that if I really did the right thing, then finally God would love me. But since then, there have been many, many awakening moments. And I can tell you my idea of God has been blown so many times that it's actually hard to speak about in words. But if I were to give you a little bit of a roadmap, of what the journey's like, it would be that, like, we're kind of going along, like I was describing when I was 8 years old, and I was normally just going about, like, in other words, goofing around. I was trying to pass the time. So I was reading the bulletin. I was playing in my mom's purse. I was counting things in the hymn book. I was, just fidgeting, drawing pictures. And something this one day said, wake up, like pay attention. And there was someone in front that was so powerful, I couldn't help but listen. And for me, even though I was only 8 years old, it was really an awakening experience. It was like, oh, I'm here to do something. Wow. Like, I'm not here to just, like, occupy myself. I'm here to, like, learn something. I'm here to, like, grow and maybe even help other people. Like, it was like this major awakening experience for me, where I was just like going on and doing life and kind of just like getting by. And friends, I want to really, bring the point that even if your kids are 5 years old, 8 years old, 12 years old, I'm telling you, they have a journey already. They have a journey already. And, I don't think anybody was aware of the journey I was going through. I grew up in the South. Kids are to be seen and not heard. You are to do as you're told, and that's about it. I don't really care what you think about anything, So my journey was really inward, and it was really my own experience. But it was a waking up to the fact that I had a purpose, that my life had meaning, and that there was something, for me to do. And I think anytime we have an awakening, it means we kind of come to ourselves and realize, oh my gosh, there is something more for me. There must be something more, because I am hearing like this I'm hearing something like, I feel like for the very first time, and I probably heard it before, but it's like it's ringing my bell. I'm suddenly awake. And the story in the scriptures that I always think of when it comes to awakening is the story of the prodigal son. And in that story, it's about a father and two sons, and one of the sons receives his inheritance. Well, he asked for it, first of all, and the father gives it to him. And of course, the scripture says he goes out and does, this is my favorite word in the scriptures, riotous living. And I'm like, wow, that sounds like fun, riotous living. But what he finds out is that, that living is pretty empty. And once the money's gone, so are the friends and everything else, that goes with it. And so the young man got a job basically feeding pigs. And in fact, the pig food started to look good. And he finally had this awakening where and the scriptures say, he came to himself. It's like he had an awakening moment where he said, basically, I could go home, like, my father's animals eat better than this. Like, I'm going to say I'm wrong. I'm going to say I sinned. I'm going to say, Anyway, it was this huge awakening moment of like, I don't have to do this anymore. Like, there must be something more. And then the scriptures tell us that when he's going towards his home and the father sees him from way far away, that the father rushes to him. And that image is so beautiful. And not only does the father rush to him, he celebrates him, puts a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet, let's have a party.
Yeah.
My son is home.
Yeah, and he gathered his robes, which for him, being
Right.
such a wealthy landowner and all of that, would have been very undignified for him to have gathered up his robes
and run.
and run to this person.
Right, exactly. And by the way, this is from Luke 15. That I'm speaking of. Yeah, exactly, Dave. It was like the love that took over. And so, for me, anytime there's this awakening moment, it's like God is running towards us. It's like, yes, I want to embrace you. I want to celebrate you and celebrate this awakening. And what's so amazing, though, about the journey is there's not just one. There's not just one awakening. And so as we begin to awaken to this grander idea of who we are and who God is, as we begin to realize there must be something more for me, in other words, I must have a greater purpose than I'm, currently living, then we start, working again with our holy desire to move forward into something new. And this is how the journey works. And it's profound and it's very individual. As I'm saying all of this, and I've noticed often people do this when there's stories being told. They start comparing their own life to what's being said and go, well, I haven't done that, or mine doesn't look like that. And friend, it shouldn't look like mine or anybody else's. You might say, well, I didn't know what I was doing when I was 8. Well, that's fine. You might say, well, my journey came at 25. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Or my journey came at 50. Like I've had people tell me, I didn't even think about really spiritual things till I was, nearly 60 years old. And I go, great. So we want to be careful as I'm talking about the journey and awakening that we don't compare ourselves to somebody else, because we really have within us this divine spiritual DNA, and we're all waking up, at various times in various forms as we're being guided. We also have these life experiences that can cause us to believe that awakening isn't possible.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a quick break.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
If this is a good time.
Absolutely.
And then we'll continue on the other side.
All right. Sounds great.
We'll return to the program in just a few moments, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partner, Natural Awakenings Magazine of Central Florida, Greater Orlando. Each month, Natural Awakenings magazines across the country take a practical look at the latest natural approaches to nutrition, fitness, creative expression, personal growth, and sustainable living. Natural Awakenings magazine is a free publication and is available in selected stores, health and education centers, healing centers, public libraries, and wherever free publications are located. You could learn more, including advertising opportunities for your business, by calling 407-628-0705. We'd also like to give a special thanks to Zen Living Realty. Zen Living Realty's mission is to mindfully serve, connect, and positively impact their customers, partners, and community through their Zen approach to real estate. Their vision is to be the most trusted real estate brokerage in the Central Florida area. You can reach Zen Living Realty at zenlivingrealty.com or by calling 407-800-2717. And finally, we'd also like to give a special thanks to Supportek Staffing. Supportek Staffing is an innovative staffing agency built on the principle of caring about their employers and employees as they navigate these new workforce and workplace challenges. If you're an employer, they want to be your human resources partner and help with the changes needed during the pandemic. If you're a candidate, they want to become your lifelong career agent to help you grow into your fullest potential. Supportek prioritizes support over volume, integrity over profits, and will treat your business and your career as if it was their own. You can learn more at supportekstaffing.com. That's SUPPORTEK staffing.com. And now we return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey with your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Welcome back, friends. And I'm laughing at myself. I was getting so into this topic, Dave had to pull back the reins a bit.
It's why you have a producer.
Exactly. And it's I can't tell you how freeing it is for me. One of the things with Sunday mornings that started to have me feel kind of hemmed in was only having 20 minutes to talk about a topic, or 30 at the most, because most topics you can only skim the surface in about 20 minutes if they're worth talking about. So this is part of my journey and expansion. And I should say that part of any spiritual journey is, there's definitely moments, as I said, of expanding your awareness of God and of yourself. And then once we start expanding, we have new desires that start showing up so that we can really walk into these new selves and these new aspects of self, that have been woken up. And in my journey from CCU as senior minister into just Cynthia Alice Anderson, as a speaker, as a teacher, as, an inspirational speaker and guide, for people that I am allowing this desire to know more of that, have its voice. And I'm finding that what I think are just conversations I'm having with people socially turn into job opportunities and things like that. And had I not left that position, I don't think those opportunities would come. And so, part of the journey is really trusting those experiences as signs from the universe. And it's really important to really trust those awakening experiences and allow that desire of that awakening to suddenly to be more, to really follow that through so that it can have its life in its day. I was just listening earlier today to the singer Krishna Das, who's known all over the world for his singing. And there was a great interview he did talking about his journey, and there was a movie about his life, and right now I'm forgetting the name of it. We'll put it in the show notes, where he talks a lot about his journey. And in his career, he played blues, he played guitar, and he was a singer. But what really woke him up was hearing people chant when he was in India. It was like something totally new woke up in him. And now this is his practice. This is his yoga of singing. And of course, if you've ever experienced the music of Krishna Das, you know it comes from such a spiritual place, and it's a spiritual experience just to listen to him. And he was saying, I've always loved music. I'd always been a musician. I wasn't that great, but I heard this, and I woke up. And so as that desire to be more, he was in India, for goodness sake, so obviously he was searching. That desire to be more really guided in there. And then once he heard, this new medium, this new expression that not only was musical, but was about God expression, it really woke him up. And it does for all of us. So after we have this big awakening, after we realize, gosh, there's got to be something more than this, then we have to really, trust that new expression that's wanting to come forward. And as we start to do new things, it's like the universe is going to require you leaving those old things behind. The universe is going to require you leave those old things behind because you're just not going to have room in your new orbit for them. They're not bad. They're not wrong. It just means that in this new expression, if you try to hold on to the past, it's really going to keep you stuck there. It's really going to keep you stuck there. But part of awakening is moving into the new things you're really being guided to do. And as you do that, you have to leave the old things behind. And sometimes you have to leave the things behind first before the new things can come in. This is what I've noticed. This is what I've experienced in my journey. Years ago, I had started my master's in instrumental conducting, and I was also the graduate assistant for teaching percussion students because my undergrad had been in percussion performance. And I had some incredible teachers. My teacher, Dan, my teacher, Michael. I mean, they were just incredible percussionists and great teachers. So I had a lot of great support. And then I went off to college. Oh, and my conducting teacher, too, in undergrad was incredible, too, Dr. Hansen. And so as I went off to grad school, I thought I was going to be an orchestra conductor for my living forever and ever. Amen. There was nothing else in my mind, even though I still had like this idea of awakening. This idea of being a minister back in my mind. I was working in churches as like a choir director or music director, or I played guitar. Sometimes I was a musician, or sometimes I played the drums. And I thought, well, maybe music is my ministry instead. So anyway, as I was on this trajectory in my master's, when I got to grad school and I was teaching students and I was doing conducting, I hadn't been in school long, and I heard my teacher say some things to a student. And then he said some things to me in a way, and I thought, this is not it for me. I cannot do this. If that's how I'm going to be, no. And I'd already had like an inkling of that because I had really sought out a lot of different schools. Like I looked at Stanford. I looked at one of the SUNY schools. I'm spacing now on which ones. Maybe it was SUNY Buffalo. There were a couple really great, conducting schools. I had looked even at Florida State, and I had been and like interviewed and sent information around to all these schools. So when I decided on one and that didn't work out, I thought, I don't know what this means, but this is not who I want to be. And so, part of awakening at times is really finding out what you don't want. And, I was heading in that direction so strongly, and it was like, boy, the universe was saying, no, this is not quite right for you. So that is also part of awakening. And even though, and even after the master's didn't work out, I still worked as a musician for a while. I still did a lot of conducting for about the next few years, but I was like really, really searching, And during that time, this friend of mine, his family owned this chain of music stores, and I worked in the music stores, kind of in my interim time where I was conducting, I was teaching, I was working about 3 jobs. And it was like, okay, I'm not sure what's next, but I was happy to help out the stores and the family and everything. And then one day it was like, oh no, you're supposed to go teach. You're not supposed to really work in a store. You're supposed to teach. And so all my conducting and all my playing, and all my work with kids over the years, it was like, oh, this makes sense. And so I remember when I was really feeling guided to leave. Well, I was really doing my prayer work around it. There was a church near where I worked, and sometimes at lunch I'd stop by there and pray. I do these big walks in this Japanese garden that was near where I was working, and I was really praying about, what is my next step? And out of the blue, I got this call from a guy who said, "Hey, I just got your name from somebody that you would be great for going into schools and starting a band and chorus programs for schools that don't have, programs." And I said, "That's exactly mine to do. Let's meet." So anyway, long story short, in less than a month of really, getting this awakening that, I was working in the store, I was doing all this musical stuff. It was like I'd been searching for so long, and it was like, okay, yeah, that's my next step. And so in every moment of development and awakening in my life, when I can look back, it's like there had to be a moment of there must be something more for me. And I'm sure as you're listening, there have been many, many times in your life. And that for me to go on and teach it to schools, for me to leave some of those, pieces behind that I'd been doing, something new wanted to come forward. But first I had to go, okay, no more of this, no more of this. I just had to let go of some of the things I had been doing and loving, for years. But how I knew I was on the right track, it's a real easy way to tell. You're happy. I was happy. And I loved seeing kids who did not have the ability or the awareness that they could play an instrument, that they could figure out how to play an instrument, and I could be the one to teach them. So, I did that for several years until I really heard that call to ministry again, and then that was my next step. So like as I'm looking back at my journey now, I'm in my early 50s, and I think, I just completed in a way something I started dreaming about when I was 8 years old. And it's like, okay, I thought it was the pulpit ministry, and I realized that, and I did it, and I loved so much of that. But now it's time for something new. And so I've had to leave some things behind. And the new has brought over 100,000 downloads, Dave.
Yeah.
My goal has been for about the last 3 years to reach 1 million people. Right? 1 million people. That's just times 10. We're going to do that.
I believe it.
We're going to reach 1 million. And now with my material on this other platform, we're going to do it. But until I was able to awaken to that idea, it was not even in the realm of possible. Not even. And in this awakening piece, like as I think back to making the decision to leave CCU, it was so hard because I love all the people there. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm happy. I was happy to be of service, and I'm going to really miss a lot of things about it. But it's like I'm supposed to reach 1 million people. I tried to do it there, and I can't. So I have to move forward. And yet, there's going to be another awakening, right? So I'm just right now living into this recent awakening. And that's the journey. So it's kind of a cyclical process, but I like to think of it more as a spiral upward, because there's going to be a time where I'm doing all this work and I'm going to be saying, there must be something more. And then desire is going to guide me. And then I'm going to have to release some of the things I'm doing and move into new things. And I'm going to awaken again and again and again. This is what the spiritual journey is. And I love the idea that, there's a journey and I just might be on it. There's something very humbling about that idea that the divine loves me enough that I am being guided, I am being awakened, I am being lifted into my next incarnation of being, and it's being created, it is creating within me as I go. And I take all the learning from the past with me. There's a great teaching. I used to kind of make fun of it when I was first hearing about it, called spiral dynamics. And the idea in spiral dynamics is, as we move upward on our journey, we kind of go past and include all the things from the past, but we're still moving upward. So there's a little bit of an expansion, and it'll look similar to what we've done in the past and includes it, but there's something new. And that's the place I'm in now. That's probably the place you're in now. I'm saying this because the world is trying to wake up. The world is trying to wake up. I'm attempting to write a new book on this topic, but we're not quite in the chapter stage. But when that happens, you'll be hearing about it. The world is trying to wake up. And so what's happening is that the way we used to do things, it doesn't work anymore. Anybody notice that? Like pretty much everything. And so as everything's changing in the outer, we are being required to change in the inner. So a good friend of mine, I'll tell him that I quoted him, my good friend Greg Brett used to say, I love ministry. It's an inside job with no heavy lifting. And what he meant was, it's an inside job, inner inside job, not inside a building, but inside our very own being, inside our very own consciousness. That we are required, when we stand up in front of groups and we give classes, we give messages, that it's a spiritual mandate that we grow, and it's an inside process because God is not outside of us making us do things. God is within. God is, yes, all around as well. But God indwells everything that we do, and our makeup, the way we are made, embedded in your spiritual in your DNA, in your spiritual DNA is the archetype of awakening. You are made to grow, prosper, and evolve. You are made to awaken. And we want to encourage you in this today. And so I want to give you a little context if it feels hard right now. Because anything worth doing is difficult. Anything I've discovered. As much as I love my friends who, we love to be positive and we love to say, God is, I am, and all there is love, and all there is God. Bottom line is, a journey does involve, remember I said at the beginning, sometimes it feels like a pilgrimage. Sometimes it feels like an adventure. Sometimes it feels like a voyage or a crossing, and that is a part of the journey, and that is a necessary part of the journey. We are waking up. We are waking up. Our journey is moving. Our journey is expanding. So my encouragement for you in this week is to really just give you some framework for everything that's happening around you and that's happening in your life. It's like when the old ways you used to do things aren't working, no awakening is coming. If you feel like at work you keep hitting your head against the wall, like, well, I'm trying to do this and nobody wants to do this. Pay attention to that, because you are being guided, and then you can learn as you're moving through this experience to not demonize the people around you, to not call them bad or unsupportive, but to realize that these are just outer signs that you are needing to move, that you are needing to grow, that you're needing to expand into this new level of awareness, and that you, in fact, are beginning to awaken to the fact that there is more for you. And remember, as you wake up, that the divine in you is like rushing towards you, like, yes, to celebrate you. And then that divine desire within will really guide you And as this happens, you'll be leaving behind the old and bringing in the new in a beautiful, beautiful way, a different way maybe than ever before. And then as you get comfortable in that, it starts to happen all over again. So this is why we call it the journey, friends. And we are moving from one place to another. We're moving from asleep to awake. And this is a wonderful place to be. In this place, we know that we are supported. We know that we are guided. And we know the universe is supporting us. So with this in mind, we want you to know that we pray with you and for you. We see you blessed and supported on the journey. And we just see you being very wise as you live your journey right now, that you take time for your journey every day, that you take time for some spiritual focus and some reflection on what's yours to do and be today, and how is the universe trying to wake you up right now. And that as you know there's something more for you, you move forward in faith, to do what's yours to do. So we thank you for joining us today. We thank you for being a part of our awakening world that we're living in right now. We honor you on your journey so much, and we acknowledge you for the great work you are doing to support humanity's awakening right now. So we bless you on the journey, dear friend. As always, we thank you for joining us, and we love it when you share on social media, when you tell a friend, because it helps us all awaken together. So blessings on the journey, dear friend. Thank you for joining us.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey, presented by Natural Awakenings Magazine, Zen Living Realty, and Supportek Staffing. This channel is also made possible through the continued support of our angel patrons, Aggie Payton, Anna Evans, Arlene Meyer, Diana Cox, Leslie Williams, Nora Miles, Sean Kilgore, Susanna Garcia, and Taryn Tucker. If you'd like to support the channel as a patron on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2020, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.